there, I am Melanie Bender, and I am a senior partner with Post & Bean, and I am here with the group to talk about the right ways to network. And joining me today, I have Ruthie Friedlander, who is the senior digital manager at The Row. I have Venz, who's president and co-founder at Reward Style. I have Jannuzzi, who's a contributing editor at Lucky Magazine, and Alisa Gould-Simon, who's the co-founder of Pose. And so I know we've all heard a lot about networking. We might know that we need to do it, we want to do it, but maybe we don't know the right way to do it. So we're here to kind of break down a little bit how we've used it for ourselves and how you guys might want to think about using it for yourselves as well. So there's one saying that goes, your network is your net worth. But really, what is a network worth to you guys? Are there any success stories that you have for yourself, or maybe that you heard of how a network has really come to play and been valuable?
I guess I'll start. We were actually talking back there about some of our success stories, and I think I'll start off by kind of talking about something that I think all of us have been reading about, which is Eva Chen getting the really amazing position of editor-in-chief of Lucky, which anybody who knows.
What are you talking about?
I just broke the news, John. Which anybody who knows her is not surprised that she is getting this, but it's really exciting for everyone who knows her because she's just such a lovely person. And I think it goes both ways. I mean, for me, I met Eva because I sent her an email my second job out of college when I was working at Club Monaco, and I sent her an email because we had been, talking on Twitter, and I just kind of said, listen, I think you're really cool, and I would really like to meet you, and we just had breakfast. And that kind of would be my first piece of advice, which is blind emailing is really not that weird. And people really want to be told that they're great. It makes them feel good, just like if you received an email saying someone thought you were really cool, you would feel great about it. And we met and we kept in touch. And when I heard the news, I got to text message someone who's now an editor-in-chief, which feels really cool for me. And it also, on the other end of it, John was actually talking to this and probably can speak to this. Eva getting that position really speaks to what it meant for her to network and for her to have gotten there. And she definitely got there because she's incredibly intelligent and amazing at what she does. But it also, in part, has to do with what it meant for her to meet people and network and.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just take it from you right there.
John?
So, I mean, Eva is one of those people that, she has, a really infectious personality. If you guys follow her on social media, you'll see that she answers almost every single question, which, it's ridiculous because she gets so much. And she's always very helpful. And, when I first met her, which was about 2 years ago, it was the same thing. It was a blind email. It was just like, hey, I work in the same building. We tweet back and forth sometimes, let's get coffee. And she takes every meeting she can, and she's always extremely professional, kind, no one's ever had a bad meeting with her. I think that really reflects well on her ethic and just how she handles herself. And granted, like we said, she's one of the hardest working people out there, but because of those relationships she's built time over time, I can't imagine how many people she knows. And I feel like the other thing, which I think maybe you were mentioning this, is I always get to end up getting a lot of emails from people that she knows. So one of the other important things about networking is not only just making sure that you're meeting people, but introducing other people to other people and making those connections even more. I feel like I get an email at least once a month from someone that's like, oh, so-and-so said I should reach out to you because they knew you from when you did this and you might be interested in this thing. So it's always really important to just keep it growing.
Yeah, and I think another thing we were really talking about, because all of us at this point have probably been in fashion, which is terrifying, probably 30 years, I don't know, collectively at this point, but we've been working in it a long time, definitely collectively. We're not that old. But I think that, it's amazing to see when you start out as an assistant or an intern somewhere, and then, when you've been in fashion 10 years, you realize that your friends are now becoming executive editors and heading up e-commerce at different retailers, and you just really grow with the industry. So I think when you're young and you're starting out, you can't really be, I don't know, freaked out by the fact that you're starting out at kind of square one, because I think that naturally you'll progress with your peers and make great contacts. But I think, to John's point, your friends and your network beyond also who you're working with in your same building or in your same office can be a huge asset. And I am a big believer in friends, wanting to hire people that come from an internal or personal recommendation. I think you automatically trust someone that your friend says, oh, you should hire this person because they're great. So I think meeting everyone, keeping as many kind of connections open as possible, and then definitely thinking about the networks beyond kind of the obvious ones like who's in your office or who you can find on LinkedIn, but friends of friends and beyond that.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you who are still, doing internships and that sort of thing, I really stress to become friends with the people that you're interning with. I mean, one of the girls I interned with at Harper's Bazaar is now working at the CFDA, and now that I'm at the Row, we work a lot together, and it's really nice to have that connection, and that sort of networking definitely helps. And if you're past that point in your career and you have a job, making sure that if you work at a brand, you're really going out for drinks with those editors and making the time to do that. I mean, I know it's after work, and sometimes you just want to go home and hang out with your cat. That's what I want to do. But it's important to do it, because when you're ready to leave your job, or if you want to expand your job, or even just being able to vent about how hard your day was, can be a really helpful thing with someone in the industry that people who you hang out with socially might not understand. And it makes your world bigger, which I think is an important thing in fashion also.
I think my two biggest points with networking are really performance, and then and by performance, I mean just showing that you are a hard worker, actually having value, and that might mean working on so many different sides of the industry, but your work definitely has value. So kind of the performance, your reputation, which never leaves you, even when you start out, 16 years old. I mean, my reputation from high school has either opened doors or closed doors for college, and then from college, then beyond into the working, into the workplace. And so I think when you think about those two things, those are going to get you farther than even the cold emailing or all these other things. That those work well when you have the performance and reputation to back it up. And the other thing is, I think, really spending time to getting to know people, because there's not many people that I actually know that I dislike, because once you can really kind of like connect with them, it just opens you up to so much more, and you really understand where they're coming from and what's going on with them, and not just personally, but within their work life as well. So really spending the time to actually build a true relationship with someone.
Yeah, I heard the word friends come up a couple times. I heard getting to know people. So it really is, it sounds like that networking, you guys approach it not so much as, what can this person do for me, but it's about kind of getting to know someone. Is that how you found to make it?
It's like, I mean, underlying, that like you're all going to be able to help each other out. Like I remember when I was at Parsons, before I dropped out of Parsons, which everyone should stay in school. But we would always talk about like, where are we going to be in 10 years? Like, is someone going to be like a vice president of marketing, or like someone be like a head of design? Like how we can all help each other out. But you just kind of find those like-minded individuals that you like being around and you like working with, and it will always pay off in the end, because you can go to like an online jobs forum and submit your resume, but there's 1,000 other people doing it with you, and like I've only ever heard of one person that's gotten a job in fashion by doing that, and we were laughing about it the other day because I don't even know where those emails go. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. But it's far easier to get ahead when you have like a group of allies, who are your friends. Don't consider them allies, consider them friends, because they are.
So maybe we have someone just starting out in the industry. They don't have that ally friend yet. Maybe they're just starting their first job. What are the steps that they should take to networking and growing their network over time?
I mean, I think that, it depends on what you want to do. I think that finding kind of the number 3 person at a company, so whether it's the assistant to the CEO or a market editor or someone who's not number 1 or number 2, but a coordinator position or something of that sort, and finding their email address and saying not just here's my resume, can I have a job, but here's my resume and I'd like an informational interview. I really just want to hear about what you do. Coming at it from a place of just wanting to learn about them. They're not stupid, they know you want a job, so you don't need to put it out there in the open. And you have to expect that they don't have a job for you, but they will want to help you because you're acknowledging that they're important, and that makes them feel good, and hopefully will make them want to help you. That's what I would do.
I'd say overperform. I mean, we all know that, I guess it's like the cliche phrase of like, go above and beyond, but truly like we can do so much more than you do in your daily job. You can get there early, you can stay later, you can do an extra thing, and those are the things that make you stand out. And there is so much churn in the fashion industry that, you might know a girl from Club Monaco who's now at the Row, and it kind of moves around, and those people, they take their relationships with them. I think John had a good analogy of that earlier. with Ava.
Did I?
Assistants and.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Well, it's just, sometimes I forget what I say, it happens a lot. Well, you know, with Eva Chen at Lucky now, everyone who has worked with Eva in the past now has a connection to a very exciting, a very young editor-in-chief at Condé Nast, which, you know, you may have been, you know, an assistant for her 5 years ago, but, you know, if you performed well, if you never let her see you not working, then maybe she'll think of you when she's looking for a next market editor or something like that. That stuff always stays with you. And I think the most important thing when you've started at a job or you're an intern is that you do not let them see you not working. You don't want your boss, unless you're doing social media at your internship, which I highly recommend you avoid. You know, don't ever let them see you on Facebook. You know, ask what more can you do? Just really prove that you want to be there that bad, because you never know where that person's going to be. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, I don't know, we'll probably do stuff together at some point.
Yeah. And kind of piggybacking off of that, the smart people who did help Eva, who interned for her, are the ones who wrote her a handwritten thank you and congratulatory note to her.
Or sent her one of the many, many bouquets of flowers.
That was me.
They look great.
I was one of those people. But you know, people who really, she got a lot of emails, write a note, do something to stand out. It's so easy to stand out right now because so many people are not going the extra mile. And I think that for those of you who are still interning, the level of complacency with interns right now is so astounding to me. So the bar is so low for you to stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's if your boss if you're an intern and your boss asks you to do something and you tell him no, you don't want to, that's not really a good move.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
what I had to do when I was an intern, if those walls at Hearst could talk.
Yeah.
But no, I think that in general, just do little things to seem like you're excited and, you know, passionate, because when you're networking, the thing that makes people want to help you is that you seem passionate and excited and interested. And I think that every job I got or every networking success story I have came because I really genuinely was interested in doing it and genuinely wanted that relationship to work. And people can sense when you're just trying to do it just to do it. You know, there's so many people who want to do what all of you want to do in this room. And it's not hard to separate the people who want it genuinely from the people who want it just because they want to work in fashion. So it's your job to make that distinction show.
And if you're reaching out to like-minded people who are in the same situation, always remember that they want the same thing. So there's really nothing to be afraid of if you're a coordinator or an intern asking the other coordinators in the industry. When I first started working in marketing in fashion, you know, social media was really starting to pick up, and Women's Wear Daily had just started writing social studies, which, you know, after the first day that came out, I emailed the writer and I was just hey, you know, I'm working on this for this brand. We should just hang out and get coffee or something. And now we're really good friends. We've both grown. She's now a features writer at Women's Wear Daily. I'm an editor at Lucky. We've come a long way from where we were, but that connection still stays really strong.
I think there's things you can do to make yourself stand out that maybe other people don't think about. One of those things is just continuing to educate yourself, whether that's learning to code or learning Photoshop and having those extra skill sets that maybe your job doesn't require. But when all of a sudden, you know, your marketing director is super busy and she's the Photoshop girl, you can pick up on that. Those sort of things make you stand out. Also, you know, there's someone who works with us at Reward Style, our VP of sales and marketing, and I was very impressed with her. Even the first month working together, she just had something different emotionally that, and for being such a young person, I was really curious about. And my dad always kind of sends me books or things that I should be reading, and one of them was Emotional Intelligence. And one of the things I liked about the book is it started out by saying that, you know, you can't, you know, increase your IQ, but you can increase emotional intelligence, which is a much bigger predictor of success. And so after about a month of working together, I was like, have you been trained in emotional intelligence? And she was like, yeah. She came from Bain, and I think that they actually train their employees on this, and it's a course, but it was something that I could tell the difference between her emotional behavior and others that I worked with that were even older than me.
Yeah, education is definitely something that I feel very strongly about, and something that my boss, who's also my mentor, feels really strongly about. In any place that you can get, I think coding is something for anyone who's in marketing, whether it's digital marketing or not. Learn how to code if you can. There are so many free outlets to do it. Learn Photoshop 100%. Learn about email direct marketing. All of this stuff. I mean, I'm digitally oriented, so I can say that it's important, but it's really important to just understand the language, read news, know what's going on, you know, try to get a free login to women's wear if you can, you know.
And I think with those things on the topic of networking, it's not only about helping yourself stand out by adding skills to your set, but it's also about kind of giving context for conversations that, hey, now I can go talk to maybe the e-commerce team, or I can go talk to, you know, someone new and have a conversation with them and kind of maybe be able to connect with someone and network with someone who otherwise I might not have overlapped with.
Yeah, I mean, you always want to be the person in the room who can speak to that one thing that the CEO is like, oh, did someone hear about that, or does someone know the answer to that? And if you're the youngest person in the room and you're the only one to answer that, that's a really exciting thing.
Yeah, you'll definitely get an eyebrow raise. Like if someone comes to me that like usually isn't involved in the conversation and they say something really intelligent just because they've been doing their due diligence outside of like, you know, the 9 to 5 or whatever, it's kind of like, oh, you're actually more valuable than I had imagined.
Totally, and you'll look to them in the future maybe too, for other things. Yeah, and two things to add to Ruthie's point, I think, just with the idea of mentors, I feel like it's something we've definitely talked about, kind of your peer group, but I think having older, more seasoned, you know, people within the industry that kind of take you under their wing is super important. But something that I read recently actually from Lean In, which I think a lot of people love and or hate, but I think there's some valuable pieces of advice in it. So the COO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, wrote it, and she basically says that you can't choose your mentors choose you. And I thought that was really interesting, and I think it's true from my experience at least and other people that I've spoken with. And I think that you can't force someone to want to take you under their wing and, you know, bring you up into the company that they're in just because you love it so much. But I do think that, you know, what we've been talking about with meeting as many people as possible, asking them for coffee. If they're really busy, bring coffee to them. Say you'll drop by their office for 15 minutes. I think that people, if you're persistent, people aren't going to want to turn you down. And the more you get to know people, the more you connect, you'll see if someone's older and they're just kind of, you know, taking an extra interest in you or trying to introduce you to people. And I think when people kind of open that door and show that they're excited about your potential and want to help you, you should seize it and just try to, you know, connect with them and keep that conversation going.
You mentioned Lean In and mentoring specifically. I know one of the other kind of gems that I found in that book was that a lot of us feel like we don't have mentors, but we're not looking at who's in our life. So a mentor is not necessarily someone who sits down with me for an hour a week and listens to my problems. A mentor can be any kind of relationship. Maybe it's someone who I go to with a question. Maybe it's someone that I have overlapped with a little bit at work. Mentoring has it looks like a lot of different things. And if we're expecting someone to be a surrogate parent as a mentor, then that's probably not something that you're going to find. But think about the people who already might be in your network, already might be in your life, and how you might be able to deepen that mentoring relationship with them while still being, you know, mindful of expectations and what, you know, what they're available to give.
Totally, and not to harp on Lean In, but I do think there's one other aspect
of the Lean In session.
Yeah, that's really, really important. And actually, a friend of my mother's who I met, who's chairman of the board at Gannett, gave me a similar piece of advice. So I think there's a lot of kind of executive women that might say this. But Sheryl Sandberg says that she hired someone because she came to her and basically was like, what's the biggest problem that you suffer from? What are you trying to solve right now? And how can I help you do that? And so it wasn't about, you know, I'm the best at this and I'm the best at that. It was, how can I best fit into what you're working on and help you excel? And the woman who, you know, is a friend of my mom who gave me similar advice was saying, go where you can make the biggest impact. And I think there's something really valuable there, which is that, you know, you might be the best marketing person or the best social person, but maybe the company that you really want to work with or the amazing team that you could fit well into doesn't need that. They might need another one of your talents. And so I think just having open eyes as to what people's struggles are, what the challenges are that they're facing day to day will let you show how valuable you can be as an asset.
Yeah, and I think kind of jumping off of that, think really strong and hard when you're networking about what the best place for you to network in is, because you might say, where's the best place for me to fit into this company is, but make sure you want to be at that company and you can actually help, because if you're a really great marketer and that company doesn't need a marketer, go find a place that does. And if you really love, you know, brand Y, but brand Y isn't a company that is really right for you, go find the brand that is really right for you. And just because you love it personally and because it looks really great on you because it fits your body really well, you know, doesn't mean that that's the brand that you should work at. You know, in fashion, it's really hard sometimes to separate your taste from where you want to work, but those are two very different things. So, you know, you have to think strategically about that, and it's true with networking also. You know, you have to connect with the people who are going to help you in your career, not necessarily the people who you think are really cool on Instagram or who are really fun to follow or who you love, you know, what they're wearing. You need to think about who's going to really help you spearhead your career.
I know one kind of lively topic of conversation we touched on was the no-nos, and we don't want to harp on anyone, but what are maybe some mistakes that you have seen in networking or job seekers or otherwise that we should definitely think twice about doing? And I can start. Don't ever send a headshot unless it's a modeling job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, let
Headshots
your
are a big
resume
no.
and your
headshot
words
off
speak
your
for
resume.
yourself.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like, if it's not even a good picture, like, why are you doing it?
Yeah. Even if it's a great picture.
I
just
agree.
Yeah,
why?
no, don't do it at all.
I just
but,
don't
like,
understand what the point is.
Yeah.
You don't need to wear designer clothing if you want to work in fashion. Like, don't spend all of your money wearing Louboutins to interviews. It's actually kind of off-putting, to be honest. We don't want to see how much money you have. It's weird. Also.
Yeah, and you know, if you're going to be working in fashion, you're not going to have a lot of money, so I wouldn't even.
You're
get
also
used
not
to
gonna.
that.
You're also not gonna be wearing heels if you're gonna be working in fashion, because you're gonna be running all over the place.
You know, earlier we talked about introducing you know, someone to another person if you think that there's like a need there they should meet. I recently got an introduction email to someone that I just wasn't interested in working with at the time, or it wasn't appropriate, and the person followed up and said, "Why didn't you reply to them? You made me look bad." And I was like, this relationship's pretty much like done.
Yeah.
Like, this is an awkward situation. So I think too, like, knowing your place and understanding that you can facilitate relationships, but beyond that, like, it's not really up to you. So you know, maintaining, I think, dignity in your emails. My mom always said, don't write down anything you wouldn't want other people to see, and I'm pretty sure that person wouldn't want other people to know that they
Also,
wrote that.
if you're introducing someone via email, you should always say, you know, "Dear John, is it okay if I send an email intro to you, to this person, just to make sure it's okay?" Because maybe John's traveling to Dubai for a month. I don't know. That would be nice. Yeah.
One thing that I think that's, or did you have a?
I just had a simple one, which is don't burn any bridges. I think that generally, we've kind of spoken to that, but really, like, there are people in the industry that I, you know, am shocked to hear from numerous different sources that they don't like working, like, numerous people don't like working with the same person because they're not pleasant to work with. And I think that it's a very small industry, for better and worse. And I think that, you know, word travels fast, and so never burn a bridge. Just always, you know, kill people with kindness, even if they're, you know, really terrible to work with, but still, I think always be kind to people.
Yeah, and I think with email, you know, the tiniest changes in an email can change the tone completely. If it's like your first email reaching out to someone, always, like, my biggest pet peeve with emails is if someone just writes John, comma, because I automatically feel like they're yelling at me for no reason. But you know, just like read over your emails, read them aloud, imagine that you were speaking to the person, and double check your resume, because there should be zero mistakes in there, especially if you're applying for an editorial job. Mine could have mistakes in it. I thought it looked okay.
Send it to, like, everyone and their mother.
Yeah, and read it like 6 times before you send it. And then I would also just say, like, don't take anything personally. If someone doesn't respond to an email, it does not mean they don't like you, or they, like, looked at your Facebook or Googled you and thought you were weird. It probably just means that, like, you know, we all get a ton of emails and we're all really busy. So you can always follow up. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But also learn the line between persistence and annoying.
So how many times is it appropriate to follow up? Just once?
I would say send an email. If you don't hear back, send a follow-up the next week, like exactly a week after. And then, I mean, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, also, you know what's going on in the industry, of course. If it's Fashion Week, like, you're crazy for emailing me. Like, even if you're my boyfriend, like, just don't email me.
And be very careful of how you interact with these people on social media, because it can.
Oh God, I've had people tweet at me being like, @Ruthie Frieds, why aren't you emailing me back?
Yeah, not okay.
Really? Not okay.
So we talked about email, we talked a little bit about social media. I mean, we are in a virtual world, a virtual time, and I don't think any of us have existed in a networking age without those mediums. But let's talk about how kind of up-and-comers can use specifically virtual networking tools to target and meet the people that they want to have relationships with?
Two of my favorites, LinkedIn. So if I ever meet someone or talk with them, I immediately go and LinkedIn them. I get off the phone call and that's the first thing I do, and thank them for the call. And then I know and I have them and I don't have to keep their business card in a huge book of files or whatever else. I also connected that to Newsly. And Newsly, basically, it's a less creepy way of knowing what the people you do business with are doing. So instead of having like Google alerts for people, it'll actually just send you an email like once a week with kind of a recap of, you know, Alisa was in the news, Pose just launched a new yada yada. So then I know and I can congratulate Alisa on that tool, and I don't have to, you know, go searching to see what my peers are doing. I think some of you guys had other tools as well.
I pretty much only use LinkedIn. It's hard, it's so hard. People jump around a lot in fashion, so I think it's a real challenge, and I need help with it.
Yeah, no, LinkedIn is like a beast to deal with, but obviously it is the social network that is made for professionals and finding a job. So it's very important to be on there, keep it updated. The one thing that does bug me about LinkedIn is that you like to get your profile complete, you do have to have a headshot there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's really bothersome because it's like, yeah.
It's raw.
Anyways, LinkedIn is definitely important. I would log into it just once a week to just see, you know, what's happening, who's changing, what connections are being made. Because the other thing about your network is you may think you don't have a network in fashion, but you're just not tapping into the network that you already have. Like my very first connection was, the way I got my first internship was my uncle, who's kind of a stoner, he like rode the Long Island Railroad from, you know, from wherever in Huntington, Long Island to the city. And he would always sit next to this one woman who worked for an accessories company that designed belts for Michael Kors. So he was just like, yeah, my nephew is graduating. He like wants to move to New York and do all this stuff. And she was like, he should come in and, you know, just get coffee. And I ended up interning there. And that led me down the path to ultimately where I am today. So LinkedIn is a great place to find random people you wouldn't think have those connections, like my stoner uncle and the accessories designers of Michael Kors. Like, what the hell? The other thing is, you know, for me, one of the most successful ones has actually been Twitter, because that's where, you know, people are really just having instant conversations. And if you can prove to someone that, you know, you can weigh in on a conversation, like we were saying, when you prove that you have that knowledge, it is very impressive and sticks with you, or it sticks with that person. You know, it's not, you're not going to send like, you know, somebody a tweet today and get like a coffee invite for tomorrow, but as you can build that relationship with them pretty casually, and then after a while, like maybe you'll get a follow, and then like after a little bit after that, you can like do the DM thing and get coffee and like start that friendship. I mean, some of my close, yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I know Ruthie shared a no-no with Twitter, and that was reaching out and saying, why are you answering emails? How should someone approach you on Twitter?
I would say if someone is like sharing an opinion about something or a fact, I would just kind of insert yourself gently into that conversation. There's a huge balance, and sometimes people can go way overkill, but just prove that you know what you're talking about and prove that you're interested. The one thing that, you know, really bugs me about, like, you know, if a new intern applies or someone's trying to get in touch with me and I investigate them a little bit, if they're not proving to me that outside of looking for a job or an internship that they're not actively involving themselves in the industry, why do I think that you're so into it? You know, I started my blog because I wasn't getting what I wanted out of, you know, the industry at my job, and I think that helped a lot because I could send that to people, and it was, you know, what I'd like to think is like intelligent and commentary. There's like good commentary, and it just shows that you're interested. And you know, just don't harp on someone. Like, share what you got to say, and then like never ask if they got your email. I mean, I think I actually tweeted earlier this week. It was like when people ask me that, I get so ticked off because it's like you sent it 2 minutes ago and then you walked to my desk. Why don't you just walk to my desk in the first place? But that's a personal issue. I have some issues.
A lot of contact etiquette I see coming up here. What about LinkedIn? Should you only LinkedIn someone that you've met? Can you use LinkedIn as a way to introduce yourself? If so, how?
I think you can use LinkedIn to introduce yourself. I mean, I've actually made a bunch of, in my new job, I made a lot of new connections. People knew that we were looking to make some changes to our website, and I had a bunch of different, you know, design companies and things of that nature reaching out to me via LinkedIn. And I found it quite helpful. I actually took meetings from some of them. I mean, there are some, you know, most of them ended up, after I did my due diligence, ended up not being companies that I met with, but there were a few that I definitely did research and found that they were great. I mean, look, it's not that hard to find someone's email address. Condé Nast has the exact same format, Hearst has the exact same format. A lot of the fashion brands, once you get one assistant's email, you know every single person from the assistant to the CEO's email address. So like, in my opinion, send an email, don't send a tweet. It just is more professional, and I think everyone sitting here would agree with that. So that, I mean, social networking is great, and it's a great way to kind of use it as like a real-time resume in terms of what you're interested in, which is why I would really suggest to everyone here, you know, don't post kissy face pictures of yourself all the time, you know, with yourself in a bikini doing whatever you want to be doing on the weekends. If you want to do that, lock your profile until you have a job, because it can be damaging to your reputation. But it's good in terms of showing that you have an interest, that you have knowledge in the industry, that you care about a specific brand or a specific magazine. If you're applying for a job at Lucky, for instance, you can really show that you're the lucky girl. You know, there's definitely some value to that feed. Send an email if you want to meet with someone. Don't.
So we're gonna open it up for questions now. So do we have a mic in the audience somewhere? All right, any questions right here in the front?
Hey, my name is Christina, and you're talking a lot about if you're an intern or if you're just getting into the business. If you're already in the business and you're not necessarily looking for a job, but you're looking for the connections that you may need later on for your position, what's the best way to introduce yourself without being like, hey, creepy, I want to be your friend, but I just like, but I would like to get to know you, maybe meet for coffee, but not necessarily I'm looking for a job from you?
I mean, I think you can be honest and just say whatever piqued your interest about them. So like, I really love the brand that you're working with and would love to hear more. I'd really like to, and I think too, you can offer like, can I take you out for coffee or bring coffee by your office because I'd love to pick your brain. Or if it's someone who's more on the peer level, you can say like, see if there's ways we can collaborate. I think in technology, we use the word like synergy a lot, which is kind of nerdy, but you know, see if there's synergy between what we're working on. But yeah, I think it's both an expression of, you know, I'd like to see if there's something I can help you with, and also in exchange, see if, you know, there's something I can help you with, have you help me with. Yeah.
Always, I mean, I would always just, to add to that, like you said, just always make sure that it can be like, you can reciprocate in the relationship, like you can help them and they can help you. Because if you know, the person gets the idea that you just want something from them, they're gonna be like, well, that's nice, but like, ain't nobody got time for that.
So offer free food.
Yeah.
I will back that one up. All right, can we move to another question?
Hi, my name is Malky. I just started my blog. And I actually also started it because I was sort of looking for something different in fashion. My blog's called My Therapist Told Me to Write a Fashion Blog. I'm very heavily influenced by like pop culture and sort of like got the idea from like a Woody Allen like perspective or whatever. But I was actually curious about like advertising, and I know you mentioned like coding and learning the coding, and I have a Tumblr, but I'm not really sure how to like monetize it or how to sort of make it, like I have the ideas and I have, you know, I love it and I love like being able to express myself, but I don't know how to make this into like a, I guess a profession or money or whatever, you know, monetize it type of thing.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think in a networking context, maybe what you might want to think about is who might be the right person to help guide you on that. So I don't know that anyone of us want to take that question head on.
I think Amber has an answer.
Yeah,
for
you
this.
You kind of teed that one up for me in like silver platter style. So Reward Style is actually a company that helps fashion bloggers make money on their content. I'm a blogger myself, and we started the company because it was confusing and difficult and something that was too heavy duty on the administrative side. So it exists now, and you don't have to go trying to network with all the different advertisers. We work with 2,500 retailers, so it's everyone from Oscar and Net-a-Porter and Proenza down to Topshop, ASOS, CVS. So it's kind of all in one place. And if you are, you know, creating beautiful content, we're invitation only. So if you kind of like reached a point where you're able to start monetizing, then you can do that with us, and it's pretty easy. And you can apply at rewardstyle.com.
It's a really, for anyone who has a blog in this room, it's a really smart move to do that. Just saying.
She's coming around with the mic.
Hi, my name's Alexa. I'm working in PD right now for a jewelry company. I had been working for a competitor a couple of months ago, and I was let go. I just want to know how I'm able to protect my reputation working in such a small industry, if you have any advice on that.
People get let go from jobs all the time. It happens. I know some extremely successful and really intelligent people that have gotten let go, and it's not because they're not smart, it's just because maybe it was a bad fit. I can't speak to the work that was being done. I'm sure you weren't messing things up like a crazy person. But the only way, we were talking about this outside, the only way to really come back from something like that is to prove that, you've really got your shit together. So, where you are now, just kick ass like as much as you can. And people will recognize that. And look, like, you look pretty young. Like, was that your first job? Yeah, okay. So you have a lifetime of working ahead of you. Good for you. Good for all of us. Where you have plenty of time to rebuild that. I would not lose sleep over it. I would just work as hard as you can at the place you're at now.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also, it's hard even when you leave a job that you were at. I switched jobs about 4 months ago, and I left on great terms at my last job, and I was really excited to start this new job. But even when you leave jobs, it's really tough, and you have this feeling, even when you let go, being let go is very different than being fired. And when you leave on your own will, you have this feeling that you have to start over, and it's rough. But I completely agree. If you're doing good work, whatever happened before doesn't really matter, and you just have to take it with stride and kick ass.
On the topic of being let go, Mickey Drexler was very famously and unceremoniously let go from Gap before going on to J.Crew and being extremely successful with them. I think we've all had positions not work out, whether we left or whether we were let go. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's not, don't look at that as failure, or maybe change your definition of failure. Failure is learning along the way. I think that without having those types of experiences where things didn't work out, we wouldn't know how to challenge and push ourselves more.
Hi, my name is Tiffany. I was just wondering, what advice would you give to the person that's in the awkward stage between just finished interning, just graduated, looking for an entry-level position? It's really hard nowadays to see, like on the blogs, on even Fashionista.com, I'll go and I'll look for jobs and things like that, and a lot of it's executive positions or senior account this or coordinator of that. No, not so much entry-level or even junior. What advice would you give to try to the person who's trying to get themselves out there without still trying to do free labor all the time?
I would apply for jobs that you're not qualified for, even if it's a little bit above, because you never know what position they actually have. So even if an assistant position's not listed and you go in and you do a really great job, there might be something that's not yet listed. If you have that email address for the HR department, it never hurts to have your resume in there. If you're interested in editorial entry-level positions, you should ask for interviews just in general in the general Hearst Condé Nast family to see if there's anything there. You never know what's going to come up. Don't get discouraged. And it's hard. It's not just you. I think a lot of people, I hear all the time from our interns how difficult it is. And also don't look down upon freelance positions. A lot of people freelance before they have their first full-time job, and it turns into a real job. And I think especially now with the dynamic of internships changing, freelancers are now they're real entry-level positions, especially at the magazines.
I would also say, I know you said you've stopped interning, but there's no reason to stop. Time is obviously, it's really difficult to do an internship and go to school and work because you have to make money, and I totally respect that. When I came here, I was just like, oh, I'll be able to get an entry-level position, no problem. And I had no experience, and I was from a school in suburban Pennsylvania where everyone was exactly the same. So coming to the city, those jobs are few and far between, and I was never going to get one. So I actually ended up interning for 2 years, pretty much all for free, and working in a restaurant. And it sucks, and 2 years is a very, very long time. I don't think I've ever heard anyone with that long. It must have just been a really shitty intern. But I would just keep hustling and interning as much as you can, because eventually what happened to me was one of the internships, a position opened up a few months after I'd left, and they were like, well, John, said he was interested in this kind of thing, went into human resources, and then, I ended up getting the job. So I understand that free labor is a really nasty thing, but it is part of the industry as it is now. I know there have been a lot of rulings about what's going to happen. I think the future will be really interesting. It'd be great if all internships were paid, but you have to pay your dues. Everyone that's older than you has paid their dues, and it's something you got to respect. It sucks so much, though.
Just to do the check, did we all start out interning? I know I did.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so there you go.
And don't sue. If you do a free
Yeah.
internship, do not
Relax.
sue your employer, because you're never going to get
You're
a job
never gonna
anyway.
get a job.
I mean, the SEO effects on those people alone, it's like you Google their name
Where
and
are
it's
they
like,
now?
they sued. And it's like, great, I can't wait for you to work for my company.
A couple quick things on that though. I think that the informational interviews like we talked about, that will get you in at least a lot of doors, and people like to help other people. So maybe they have friends who are hiring or know of someone, and that'll come up. Also look for things that you have in common with people. So maybe it's someone who went to your college or they're from your hometown, because people like to take care of their own. I had one more thing, and
I know specifically with junior positions, the thing that's great about those is they can be a lot more flexible, because you're not such a big, necessarily as big of a cost to take on. So there might be a little bit more willing to take a chance on you. So even if there isn't a position listed, I think definitely go with that advice of seeking out the HR person, introducing yourself, letting them know the type of position that you are interested in, and you might be surprised at what is available or becomes available that might not have been publicly listed.
And get rid of your ego, because you're gonna have to check that really quick, no matter where you work or what level you're at. I'm a senior manager, and I still sometimes bring garment bags to magazines, because sometimes that's what has to happen. And so if you're applying for entry-level jobs and it's not the title that you thought it was gonna be, or you're shocked at something that's part of the job description, get over it.
Yeah.
Or choose a different industry.
Yeah, it's a long road,
Which is
but
fine.
you could be an accountant if you
Yeah.
and that sucks.
Yeah. Or not.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's your calling.
Yeah.
Numbers, money, whatever.
I don't know what a number is.
I think there's so many opportunities at home. Like, I'm from Dallas, Texas, and a blogger that was a good friend of mine, she's kind of started her blog, started using her word style, kind of got some credibility, and she's now the fashion editor at our local, FD Lux, which is like the Dallas Morning News fashion magazine. But now, if she wants to move to New York, she's going to transfer at a much higher career level than if she just kind of started to work her way up. So I think you don't always have to start here. Sometimes I think New York is a place for people who have made it, not for people who are trying to make it. Not to be a downer, but I think sometimes it can be true, and sometimes it's nicer to transfer in or use your roots to get to where you need to be.
Hi, I'm Dominique, and I'm 17, and it's really hard to get a job in the fashion industry right now because I'm so young, but I'm really passionate about it, so I want to get in there as early as possible. And I was just wondering if you have any advice for me to stand out when I'm up against people that have more experience, because there's so many opportunities that I've had that once they heard that I'm 17, they're like, oh, never mind, call me in 5 years. So do you have any advice?
Have you worked retail?
Yeah, I just got a job at a boutique in Elmhurst, so I'm for future internships, obviously not right now, but advice for me, since people would probably have more experience.
I would say keep working retail and learning about all of the brands that you're selling and working with, and really, I think, speaking to Amber's point and what we've been talking about in terms of education, I think your best bet is going to be really educating yourself, so that when you're able to do those internships and get those bigger jobs, you are the smartest person in that room. And you can not only be the most passionate, which you are already, but you can be the smartest also. And then when you're ready for those internships, you won't have any competitors.
Hi, my name's Alana. I've been kind of sending my stuff out trying to get a job, and I find that a lot of times people ask you what your strengths are, what you think you're good at, but a lot of times it comes off sounding incredibly egotistical, and that you're writing how amazing you are, and you sound ridiculous, and you're bumping yourself up, and that you probably don't actually know anything. So is there a way that you can kind of push your strengths when you're talking to somebody and not sound like you're really trying to plug yourself and you're a great infomercial person or something?
I think, yeah, I mean, I would say I recently was going through a hiring period, and I think that you can actually, what's interesting is maybe what's more effective is being anecdotal about it. So saying things like, in previous jobs, I was the person who, we just hired an amazing office and community manager, and she's obsessed with color coding everything. And the fact that she's obsessed with organization and color coding, to me, tells me that she's a bit of a perfectionist and a bit type A, which we needed for that job. So I think almost, you know, if I'm happy to stay late, I'm happy to put in the hours instead of just saying I'm hardworking. Because I think there's a lot of like buzzwords that you know you can use. I'm dependable, I'm hardworking, I'm passionate, and those don't necessarily really convey what that means to you, because I might I might have a perspective on what you being passionate is, but maybe you're really passionate about specific things. Like I'm really passionate about email marketing, and you know, I'm really educated on what different companies in your space are doing there. So I think maybe bringing it down to a more personal level and like what that actually looks like for the employer were they to hire you is helpful.
Yeah, I mean, anything you can do to show enthusiasm around specific things, like, because I feel like you don't need to tell people what your strengths are if, you know, when you're speaking to them, and I don't know if this is all happening over email or in person, but if you kind of light up when they talk about something, they know that's what you're interested in and that's what you're really passionate about doing. And it could be like, you're passionate about email marketing. I find that very peculiar, but it's just like, that's those kind of things, when people see that, that's what they really respond to.
I am too.
Yeah, you guys should totally hang out.
Data.
Yeah, well, exactly.
The click-through, that's amazing, that percentage.
So it's fast A/B testing.
Oh my God.
No, it's true, and I think it's one of those things, to John's point, you can't fake. And so, I mean, when you interview someone and they're like telling you they're passionate, but you don't see it in them, it's the emotional intelligence thing. I think automatically as an employer, you're like, I don't know, they just didn't woo me, you know? But someone who comes in and is super passionate and like doesn't really know what position they should be working with you in, but like knows what they're passionate about, I'm gonna hire 10 times over.
The other thing I would say is, you know, whether you may think you don't need a portfolio if you're not a designer, but if you're applying for a writing position, a marketing position, any position, you should have some kind of body of work that you can send people. And if you haven't had a job, make up fake things. It's not, and I mean, obviously don't say like, oh, I did this great campaign at like The Gap, but you know, try and figure out, like, let's say you're applying for a job. This is exactly what I did. I applied for a job at Kate Spade, and in the interview, I asked, was like, you know, what challenges are you guys facing right now? Like, what's your biggest problem? And they, you know, the marketing director rattled off a list of a lot of different things. So I went back home that night, and I put together this like 10, 15-page document of all these different solutions I had for those problems. And, you know, I sent that to her. I made it look very Kate Spade. It was all branded and great. But, you know, showing that you can actually, showing them your strengths by figuring out or solving their problems is a really good way of doing it.
And to that point, if you don't have a portfolio, it can be doing work on maybe a brand that you're not actually working for, but how you would approach that problem. I think also using your network. So maybe you have a friend who has a line and she might not be able to pay you, but by just saying, hey, you know, I want to put together some ideas around this, it might be able to be helpful for her. You get something you can add to your portfolio. That's how kind of your network can all come together, I think. Right here in the front.
You actually reminded me of a question that I wanted to ask. So I have a few portfolios. I am most interested in design, but I've worked in retail and I did some social media and a few other things. And I guess I just wonder sometimes, is it silly to bring a few of everything when I go on an interview? If it's just for one thing, does that make me look like I'm all over the place, or that I'm just sort of good at a few things and maybe not really great at one thing? I don't know if that makes sense the way I asked that, but
yeah, no, it makes sense.
I don't want to look unfocused, but I want to show that I'm not just very narrow, that I have a few other areas. I would take the job, like, you know, whatever job it is, I would bring something that really speaks to what that job is looking for, and then you can show them those examples. But I would definitely speak to all your interests, because I think, you know, when people are hiring someone, they're not hiring their skill set, they're hiring their personality and, like, you know, in addition to their skill set. So showing that you are, I mean, you mentioned it as all over the place. It just seems like you have a lot of varied interests, which is actually really, you know, something I think a lot of people look for. Nobody wants someone that's like pigeonholed themselves into one kind of work or, you know, one hobby or interest. They want someone that's really dynamic.
I also think knowing where you're interviewing. So for instance, I work at a very small company, so having all of those interests and, you know, skills is something that would be very valuable. So that would be something that if you came in and interviewed would be something that people would be like, oh, this is great. She can do Photoshop. She can have, you know, she does design. She does all of this. So if we needed help with this during the show and whatever. But if you were at a bigger corporation where jobs were very streamlined and the person who did marketing stayed on the marketing floor and only did marketing, it could come across as a little bit scatterbrained or whatever word they would use to describe it. So just know where you're interviewing and do your research, which is always important when you're meeting anyone. To know who they are and what their background is, and use Google to know how big the company is and who are you interviewing with and where did they come from and have they worked at places that are big or have they stayed at these smaller companies with like really creative-minded people.
One point that you hit on that I think is really important is thinking about how you're positioning yourself. So we always want to be genuine, but there are different parts of your story that you might want to focus on more given the company, given the specific person that you're meeting with. And I think that's really important to think about as well, that you need to be, if it's a specific position, think about how you're a right fit for that position. If it's just a company, think about how you're a right fit for that company. And that's the story that you want to lead with. And it should all be really genuine. You can also, know what those other things to talk about might be and respond to the conversation in the direction it goes. But really think about kind of what you want that person to come away with about you. All right, well, I think that's where we're going to leave off for today. I think just maybe some parting thoughts to think about, some points that came up. Be genuine, not generic. Show your passion, show your interests. And I think approach it socially, and you'd be amazed at how people are willing to help you when they know you. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.